Welcome to EMERJ TV with Reggie Smith. This podcast is about all things production for the people in front of the camera or behind the camera. Let's join Reggie right now for the discussion.
Hello, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to my first episode of my podcast, EMERJ.TV. This podcast is about conversations that I'll be having with video professionals from in front of the camera, behind the camera, above the line, below the line. Just basically some friendly conversations. And my first guest, Larry Trinkhaus. He's a cinematographer, videographer. Are you DP? You ever doing the DP?
Yeah, DP on some shows.
So,
it
yeah,
depends.
yeah,
It
yeah.
depends on the show and the project. And
Yeah, because we do whatever's needed for the
You've
shoot.
got it.
Yeah.
Working freelance. You go with the calls.
Yep, pretty much.
The different jobs.
Larry, I'd like to say that you are one of the people who, you and I have talked before.
We have.
But I'll say in front of the millions of people, you are one of the people who I never thought I'd meet when I first heard I heard about you, Larry Trinkhaus, and Jeff Jones. And I thought, I don't have to worry about meeting those guys. I said, they're way up here. And I think I've been doing production for maybe like a year or two, maybe 3.
Yeah.
But I have to say the first job I worked on, I was hired as a director. And they were telling me who was coming, and they said, and Larry Trinkhaus. And I thought, oh my God. I was like, he's not gonna listen. I was like, okay, now I'm gonna get found out,
No.
But you were a pleasure to work with. I remember we were doing 2 days. You showed up at the end of the first day, and you were shooting some product. And I said, well, I'm just gonna go over here and help strike. And you were, no, you're gonna still be here and tell me what to shoot. But it's been great. You did me a big favor on the glass blowing videos that I was doing.
That was a fun shoot. Yeah, it was great.
I gotta tell you, we got done shooting, and you took my card, you took our cards, and you took mine. You said, well, come over to the house. And I was like, come over to the house? And you said, we'll look at the footage. And I thought, oh my God, he's gonna find out I don't know anything. And it wasn't a matter that I thought I was that bad. It was just that, there are levels. And what I've been fortunate enough in my career is to work with people on higher and higher levels, which I improved, but still, it's like you have your hero.
I think exactly. I think that's it. We all do that. We, when you first get in the business, you hear about all these really great people that you're working with, and directors and photographers and editors, and you say, oh wow, someday, you just get started in the business if that's your love and that's what you want to do, and you just keep working and learn from the people that you work with.
And that's what it is. That's the thing. Now, what I did was, like, we started doing 4 jobs. And so I hired guys, we were bringing a grip truck, but I hired guys that have been doing it 30 years. I had only been doing 8. Yeah. Because I figured I can learn from those guys.
Exactly.
And one thing I realized is I have never wanted to be the smartest guy in the room.
Oh, that's interesting.
I'd like to have other people so that way we weren't limited to what I knew.
Yeah, sure.
And then I learned, and it's just like you were saying, you shot film.
Right.
And I didn't shoot film until I had been doing it over 20 years. And when you probably started with something
I started with film. Yeah, I mean, video. I didn't, that just wasn't the thing at the time. Went to film school, so I had a background in it, and that's how I even started my first professional jobs after I get out of school.
Right.
And I knew how to load magazines, and we'd shot film before. I knew how to expose film and that sort of thing. So when I first started going out looking for work, I kept visiting different production companies. I'd go to the yellow pages and I'd look up production, and I'd make phone calls. I'm just looking for work, and originally, so I'm looking for a full-time job. I just wanted a job. I didn't know how the business worked. I'm just a kid. and out of school. So I would go and do an interview and talk to them, and they say, no, we're not hiring anybody now, you know. And say, but you say you know how to load magazines? And I go, oh yeah. Have you ever worked with the Eclair or, you know, the Arri S camera or the SR? And I go, oh yeah. He says, you know, I can't hire anybody, but we do have a shoot next week. And we need a camera assist that can load mags to work with our photographer. Are you available? I go, yeah, I can do that. So that's how I got started. You know, I did one of those jobs, and they called me back again another time. And then, okay, well, I guess I'd get back to the Yellow Pages and start talking to other production companies, and the same thing. Nobody was hiring anybody full time. So, but they said, "Oh yeah, oh you did the assistant camera work for so and so. Oh yeah, well we got to shoot 2 weeks from now for a couple of days, and can you do that?" And so eventually, I was getting enough calls on a freelance basis that I didn't have to go look.
You don't think about,
you know. So, and I never heard that term freelancer before. I said, I guess I'm a freelancer now. And you know, I was green. Like, you know, everybody starts out green. You know, you really do. I didn't even, you know, one of the first jobs like that is they said, okay, send us an invoice. So go talk to somebody. What's an invoice? I don't know how to do that, you know. Okay, so they said, yeah, okay, go to the, you know, office supply store, and you can find them hanging on the wall. These forms, you fill out your name and address and put what you're charging them. So I said, so I did that and got started. So that was the beginning of my freelance work. Working as a camera assistant, I started out doing that.
Now, how long did you do that before you actually got called?
A number of years.
Really?
Yeah, a number of years. I can't remember exactly.
Really?
You know, 3 years or so. And then people, you know, you'd meet people and you'd try and get things where I could shoot a little bit. Somebody was doing a little project and I'd volunteer to shoot it. You wouldn't make any money, but you could get your hands on cameras and do some shooting. And then eventually what happened, I started working with some of the higher level DPs, and they were all in the union. And they said, you know, we really need you to you know, I'd like to keep using you as an assistant, but you got to start joining the union. So I said, well, if I'm getting work, I know, sure, why not? You know. So Bill Deere, who was a great director, he ended up, you know, he was doing commercials at the time here, and he ended up directing Harry and the Hendersons.
Oh yeah.
That film, and I think he did another one. He hooked up with Michael Nesmith. So anyway, I was doing camera assistant for him, and so he signed my application. And then another director of photography, Pat Cragen. I don't know whether you know Pat Cragen. He was. I learned a lot from him too, a lot from Bill Deere. And so anyway, worked as an assistant for a number of years, and then gradually trying to find other jobs, non-union jobs, shooting, you know, and working my way up that way. So that's how I got started in the business. And eventually, after a number of years, and more and more corporate work started coming up, automotive work, and eventually switched over to a DP card, and then just started, you know, shooting from there. And a combination, mostly at that time, it was mostly union projects for the auto companies. You're going into factories, UAW, and did a lot of UAW films, a lot of work for Chrysler, and it was all 60 millimeter film. I eventually bought a camera instead of having to go to Victor Duncan's and rent one. You know, as an assistant, I was always going there, picking up gear, checking it out and all that, and driving back and forth. I said, you know, I should just get my own camera. Then it's like done. So I took a loan out and got an Arri SR. And back then there was a lot of film work for the auto companies. You know, I worked for BBDO, for, you know, Ross Roy. I don't know if you remember those. Name it, they changed it to Pentamark, and there was went through a lot of changes. But basically, they were doing a lot of product introduction or product comparison shows, and
Right.
we'd go out for like weeks at a time out west to film the cars, the whole lineup, and all the new changes that they would then edit together and make those available to the dealers, so they would know what new products were coming out. So that was kind of the bread and butter.
Yeah.
And
well, what were some of the cooler jobs? You know, things because we've all
coolest
had
jobs. Oh yeah,
because we all had things like I never dreamed I'd get to do.
Yeah, I always liked movies. You know, we talked about, we all would go to the movies. As a kid, I was going to the movie. It was like, you were kind of tangent to that, but, we weren't making feature films.
Right.
Detroit wasn't a feature film town. And I toyed with going out west. But one of the first coolest pictures that I really enjoyed doing was a project. Frank Garnetti was the director on it. And he's just a wonderful director. I learned so much from him. He was really excellent director. Anyway, this show was for CF Industries, and we went all around the country. What CF Industries was a farmers co-op. So all the huge farms all across the Midwest that grow grain and corn and wheat and all this stuff, they get their fertilizers from this co-op. So they have these huge factories that, you have to make the nitrogen and the phosphorus and whatever. So we would do that, and it was like making the ultimate industrial film, like I saw in film school. Like, you could see that because we would travel all over, and on top of that, it had a great intro. We started out with like a documentary, almost a feature. We had actors and a log cabin, and it was like the beginning of fertilizer. The farmers, so they reenacted this little kid coming out and running through the chickens out of his log cabin out into the field, and they're shoveling manure out there, all dressed up in costume, and so he says, "Hey, Pa, the guy says, "Hey, is there any more manure back at the barn?" And he says, "No, Pa, this is it." So I felt like we were making a movie. We were shooting film, and I remember using coral filters to warm it up and diffusion, and then it went from there, segued to like the 1930s. And an old car driving down the road,
Wow.
And it was like a real thing. And he comes in, and they come to the farmhouse, and the mother's out on there putting the laundry out on the clothesline, and all that. And she says, "Oh, did you get the fertilizer?" "Yeah, I got it. I got to get it all down. Looks like the weather's going to turn." So it felt like you were making a movie.
That's nice. That's nice.
Plus, I would get to go to where they would make all this stuff. And they had to, the phosphorus, we'd fly to Florida, and it was phenomenal. They had this, I've never seen, a regular shovel that has a big...
Steam shovel.
Steam shovel type thing with a big shovel on the end. This thing was so big you could put a house inside it.
Really?
And they would go down, because down in Florida, apparently, that's where all of the old stuff from millions of years ago. Right. Well, I have shark's teeth that are huge from the old giant sharks, because they would, as they go through and have to process that. So and we did stuff for the railroads, and we did stuff where they manufacture the nitrogen, and it was just a fun traveling all over the country. I got to do helicopter shots with the Tyler rig, where you would sit inside and you would hang out. Because all this stuff had to be loaded on barges and down the Mississippi. We'd go down the Mississippi to deliver the fertilizer to wherever the next step is. And so we got shots of the boats, the barges with all the material in, and got to go on board one of the ships, and the captain driving the barges down the Mississippi. It just felt like I was, so that was one of my favorite projects.
When I
first got started.
One of the things I realized or noticed is you never get to a level like you work for a while and say, okay, you take a step. You always find yourself on a bigger job. You get a phone call, can you be here? Say, okay, get the crew on time, show up, and then it's this, or it's it's the next thing, and you work. The cool thing that I experienced is people were always first of all, working on a crew, everybody's working to make it the best. It's not like, well, Larry's been doing this a long time, and then Reggie hasn't, but so Larry's gonna take care of him. You worked to make everybody good, and you make to come away with the best product.
That's that's the key. That's what I feel all along and that's what I enjoyed about production.
Yeah,
it's usually everybody is there to do their job, and you're all going to the same goal, and everybody contributes their piece to the puzzle.
Yeah.
To make it all come together. And that same thing, I had to put my life on the line sometimes and trust my gaffer. On that show, they have those combines that would go down.
Oh yeah, I know.
And they wanted to rig a camera on there, and I had to get a shot, and they had me, strapped on, and I'm late. Oh, it was one of those things with the roller stuff like that.
Man, yeah.
And so if I would fall down, they'd run right over me, and I had to get the shot, lean way out. But they strapped me all in. I just had to trust that, the gaffer knew what he was doing, and so I could get the right angle of the guy driving this, in the field. I don't even know where we were. We flew into some in Illinois, Indiana, I don't know, Kansas. I can't remember, but I remember that how you really end up trusting other people, and they trust me to make the right exposures and to make sure that we get the footage too, because there's a lot of dollars being spent to get a whole crew together and fly everybody, and you can't come back and say, "Oh, I screwed up the exposure. Let's go do it again."
Right.
Yeah, you can't.
And especially shooting film, you didn't see it until it was developed.
You don't see it until it had to. Oh, exactly. That was the thing about film. Right?
See now, how was that for you? Not necessarily the first one, but when you first started shooting film, what was that process? What was that like for you to okay, how's this going to turn out?
You're always nervous.
Are you in your head?
Absolutely, you're always worried about it. But I was constantly making sure I'd back up light meters, and I was really sometimes maybe over focusing on making sure I had good exposure. And really double checking it, and you got to put your NDs on, and polarizing, all the different things that you would need for the projects. Sometimes, but that was the big thing there. And also, when I first started, there's no video assist. So I'm the only one that sees it. So you have to, the director would come and look through there occasionally, but still for the whole action and the whole movement.
Right.
And they go, okay, so you do the whole thing like that show. You're following the kid down and go pushing in here, and so after the shot, okay, cut, and everybody turns to you. So how was it?
I know.
And you can't say, well, I think you go, good, got it. You had to go, or we need to do it again. We need to do it again. We buzz the focus at the end. So, but you need to be decisive. You can't just waffle because I heard them complaining about some other camera. They go, well, it was kind of, it doesn't help. You need so that. But to me, that was the fun part. I loved operating. It's like you watching the movie when you're doing it.
The shoot that I was talking about that you got there late, but when we got there that morning, it was you, Al Hart, Dan Noga, and Will
Eichler. Yeah.
Will Eichler.
Oh yeah, that's the one with the sous vide thing where they cook it in
with the vacuum seal.
Yeah, vacuum seal, and it's cooked at a set temperature. So we
were there. I was directing.
Yeah, I came in on they pre-lit it.
Yeah, you came.
And I came in the next day for the shoot. Yeah.
So they were waiting, and we were waiting for the producer.
Yeah.
He was writing the script while we were waiting.
Yeah.
And so I was in the back, and I was talking to Al, and I walked out, and everybody was on camera, and they looked at me, and I wanted to go, I don't know what's going on. And I said, well, I can't say that. So I walked over to the client. I said, okay. I said, give me the first shot. And he gave me the first shot. I said, okay, set up cameras. It was the multi-camera, but everybody was ISO'd.
Right.
And I said, okay, this is what we're doing. I got all the shots. I went in the back. We rolled, and I was watching it, and I was watching the I said, okay, got it here, got it. And then we got done with that one. I said, okay, I'm about to plow through this. Because Al kept saying, we're not going to finish. We're not going to finish. We did that first shot. I plowed through it, and then when Al said, I'm glad you were here, and I thought to myself, I'm really happy you think so. Because
yeah. You got that going.
I think I was the least
Yeah, that's the director's job. Yeah.
That's what you have to do. So you have to step up.
Yeah.
You know, I've been...
And a lot of times, yeah, you have to cover for somebody who's not quite on the same page.
Right,
you know,
right.
You kind of bring them along, you know, and find a way to get it going.
But
that can really mess things up when you get a hole in the process, you know.
and me being the director supposed to be taking the lead.
Yeah, and they didn't give you the proper information. Yeah, it's exactly.
But
well, if I remember, that went very smoothly.
It was really nice.
And we got a lot of nice shots, and
you came in.
You
came in at the end of the first day and shooting product. You were shooting product.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And I said, well, this is what we have to do. And he said, okay, we're gonna come in this way, and we do this. And now we're gonna try something. And so, what I could do was, because I had been doing it long enough, I could make suggestions.
Yeah.
But the thing about what I didn't have when I first started directing, I had a sense of humor all the way up until we rolled record. Then I didn't get any jokes. I didn't get, whatever. Because I was afraid that people wouldn't listen to me.
Yeah, you wanted to focus on the job.
And I told my business partner at the time, Dave Kavanaugh.
Dave's
he said, why do you do that? I said, I don't think they're going to listen to me. He said, that's your crew. You have to trust them. Yeah. So then the next shoot I directed, I was laughing and I said, okay, how am I doing?
Yeah.
But then I learned everybody is willing to work hard. I had never been in a situation where you have people with, tens of years of experience work for somebody with only 8. Mm-hmm. But it was just
doesn't matter. You're there to do that job.
Right.
You just want to do that job, and then you're looking to the next person. You know, like the camera assistant is looking to me to pick the lens, and I'm looking to the director. Well, what do we need to do? I need close-ups, and I say, oh, okay. Well, we could do here, or we could do here. What works for you? And then you say, oh, I like this better, and you go, okay, great. Yeah. So that's it. Give me this lens, and then we go. But everybody is connected to the other person on that, and that's part of the fun of it. I think it really is.
It is part of the fun of it, and then everybody has the level of professionalism, not a level.
Yeah,
it was you set the bar high, so that when you get done now one thing that I had that you didn't have was we were shooting video.
Yeah.
So you could play it back.
Right. Yeah. And that was later on in my career. We started doing that.
And we used to talk about, Dave and I, we used to talk about shooting film, and I thought, I don't know how they do it.
Oh, yeah.
You can't see the shot and whatever. But then I did get to shoot film, and then you do. You rely on your video.
You rely on the DP. And you get a pretty good idea. You can put your eye to the eyepiece. And after you do it, you can just imagine the shot.
Yeah.
You can look right now and imagine how you would shoot in a room. Okay, I want a wide shot. Then I need a close up here, and you can tell what the background is. So eventually you start doing that.
And I learned one day. I realized I said I can. Like I used to see people do this and do this.
Yeah, right.
And I said, but I can frame a shot just standing here.
Yeah.
And I was like, well,
you can do. I still sometimes like to do that.
I was like, well, when did you learn that? But what it is you know what the shot is. You know what you need to get.
Right.
And you communicate with your crew, even with the audio guys and the lighting guys. Everybody it was a team,
Sure. And they just need to know what it is, and it all comes from the producer down to the director, passing on what it is they're trying to accomplish, so that then you can help make that happen.
Communication.
It's so much
good
about communication. Absolutely.
But I tell you, I wouldn't trade this. Some years later, I thought, okay, what would I do if I wasn't doing production? And I thought, so now when I was young, I liked selling clothes for a minute. I was into stereos.
Oh, okay.
And I was into recording my own 8-tracks and cassettes, which actually was my door into production, because I knew how to watch my VU meters.
There you go.
That was all.
Yeah.
No other audio, and I got hired to do audio for live TV.
Awesome.
Because I knew how to watch.
You can make
TV
sure, yeah. And you
and
probably
built
had a
on
good
that.
ear. You could listen.
Well, yeah,
You knew if something
yeah.
wasn't right or whatever, you could tell.
And just
Good ear.
develop, and you work with people and learn and ask questions. And one thing
You worked with Kavanaugh.
well, we were business partners.
That's
Actually,
great. Dave, how's he doing? Have you talked
he's
to him?
doing good. Yeah,
Is he
matter of
all
fact, yeah.
Okay, good.
Well, actually, the first job I got,
Mhm.
Dave had been hired. Dave was hired 6 months earlier.
Okay.
And they were like, he's our #1 camera guy. And I was like, and I looked at him and I thought, and it was just a private competition. I said, that's the guy I got to beat. And so we talked and we hit it off, and we had the love of production in common.
Yeah.
He had gone to school, I hadn't.
Mm.
But we bonded. He
That's
started
great.
teaching me camera and stuff like that, how to
Wonderful.
zoom and focus and do, And one thing I liked was we were using crank zooms. They were no
Okay.
servo.
Oh, I remember.
I remember the first
Oh,
time I saw a
gosh,
servo, I was like, are you kidding me? A servo zoom with
Yeah.
cranks?
Woo.
You could control that. You could control
Yeah.
that zoom. It was really cool.
Yeah.
But-
nice.
But I was willing to learn. I was willing to put in the work. And
Yeah,
just
that's
same
it.
as you, it's the desire and the hard work and the level of effort that you put into
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
And people see that.
Stay focused. You keep learning. You keep
Yeah.
staying focused on what you're trying to accomplish. What's this job about? What are we trying to do?
Mhm.
How do I fit into that puzzle? What
Yeah.
can I contribute? It's like, because I never really wanted to be a director.
Yeah.
I don't think I had that sense of things. I liked when the director then would say, I need to shoot here, and then he would give
Right.
me the idea of, I need a wide shot to establish and this and that, and then I could just figure out how to shoot and operate, and expose it and all that. And more as I, after the years and years, you get a feel for all of that. But
Right.
I wasn't comfortable. I always liked working with good directors, and I've learned constantly, like
Yeah.
guys like, Frank Garnetti.
Yeah,
was
yeah.
great. Mike Caraway doing industrial stuff. It was just great, and would really think out the order of shooting and what was priority in terms of our time.
Right.
What we need, what we can get away without having, and all of that.
Mhm.
And there was a director called Robin Brown. Have you ever heard of Robin Brown?
No.
He, British fellow, came over here.
Mhm.
He worked in British television for years, doing a show called Black Beauty in England,
Oh, yeah.
which is a major TV show.
I remember Black
And,
Beauty.
yeah, the English version.
Yeah.
And he was the second unit on that, and eventually they had him direct second unit and all. And,
Okay.
and I learned so much. We were doing by then. Now, film was being done less and less, and everything was being shot more on video.
Yeah.
Okay, especially UAW stuff or whatever. Well, a lot of the
Well, hang on, Larry. Excuse me for interrupting.
What?
But we're to the end of our episode. See, and this shows
It's
you how
going fast.
fast it goes.
Yeah.
But what I like to say is, first of all, again, welcome to my podcast. I appreciate you coming to take a look. And if you're interested in coming on and have a conversation, you can reach out, send a message on the site, or you can go to EMERJ.TV on any browser. It'll bring you to the site. Look forward to talking to Larry some more, but also look forward to having conversations with you other production professionals across the state and the country. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching EMERJ TV with Reggie Smith. Join us next time for more discussions on all things production. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.